Hello, supporters of apchowart.official. I'm gonna go live today talking about how to speak about art, how to critique art in a way, how to speak about art in a way that you can feel confident about what you're sharing and have more than one or two words to say. Like, instead of just saying, oh, this art makes me feel good, or this art makes me feel warm, or like happy. Like those are good adjectives, but those are like pretty basic adjectives when we're talking about describing what a visual art piece makes you feel and why. So we're going to talk about today how to speak about art, how to have a little bit of vocabulary in your knowledge so that you can speak about art, whether to your friends or in private, to yourself even, or like maybe even directly to the artist if you get to meet them. I was inspired to make this video after talking to some of my friends about this recent painting that I finished and hearing from them that they didn't always feel confident about how to speak about art. And like one of them, I think, even said to me like, oh, I'm sorry, like, I don't know how to talk about art really, so I wish I could say more, kind of thing, but I don't really know how to talk about art. So this is why I made this video. I thought I would make it a bit of an educational video, try and make it as fun as possible, and use this painting as well as a different painting as the examples that we're going to talk about for talking about some of this art vocabulary that I'm about to share. So we'll start with, I have some like very basic art vocabulary, art language written down in an art journal that I had started back in, oh geez, like 2009. This is like many, many years ago now, but I had to do this art journal as part of a course requirement for an art international baccalaureate program that I was doing. And I didn't spend very much of my art journal pages talking about art vocabulary or like technical language that artists use. But I did make these 2 pages and I thought they're kind of fun, so I'm probably going to share those right now. Give me 1 second. There we go. So we have like 2 pages. That's all I ever dedicated to talking about art vocabulary in like 1.5 of these thick art journal books. And yeah, so we're going to talk about elements of design. So color is pretty self-explanatory. Unless you're like super colorblind or something, color is probably one of the first things a lot of people notice in a piece of art. And then within color, you can talk about hues, you can talk about saturation, you can talk about tints and shades of a color. I'm not really going to get into too much detail with things, but we're talking about color. We can talk about hues, which is like, red is a hue, green is a hue, blue is a hue. They're all different hues. And then you can have like, I guess I will go over it quickly. Within reds, like the family of reds, I don't have an example that I can show you visually, but within the family of reds, you can have tints of red, you can have shades of red, and then with the hue of green, you can have tints and shades of green, tints and shades of blue, tints and shades of yellow, so on and so forth. And like when you're talking about like Pantone colors, like all those different colors have names, but like really they're just different hues. That's what that's representing. And then an element of design is line. So sometimes you'll hear about leading lines. Leading lines draw your viewer's eyes to certain aspects of your composition. Composition is another word. Composition is like kind of how things are placed on the canvas or the paper. That's not written down here, but leading lines can draw your attention to certain aspects of composition. Texture is another thing kind of to do with line, because you can create texture through use of line, or you can create texture, like in paintings, you can create texture with certain media. Texture is going to bring up another layer of visual interest that will draw your viewers' attention to certain things. Shape, pretty self-explanatory. You got curves, like, curved lines and straight lines, and combination of those will make shapes, and general shapes in a composition can sometimes give you different feelings. Like triangles are generally very strong shapes. Circles are very unifying. That's just something I can think of at the top of my head. Value is talking about light and dark, particularly talking about like black and white things. So if you have a charcoal piece that's black and white, like, maybe if I can find one here. So this piece I did, oh, not that, hold on.
A few moments later.
You're talking about a black and white piece. Here, yeah. So I did a charcoal drawing called Body of Years. That is a drawing. That's a picture. Well, this is the picture of the drawing that's stuck into my journal. But if we're talking about value, the dark values are like in here. This is the darkest value. This would be the light values, just where the whites are. So we're talking about blacks and whites essentially when we're talking about value. And then unity is a principle of design that describes the coherence of a work that results from all parts of the piece working in harmony. Here's another thing. Balance is a principle of design that results when the elements of design are composed to evoke equality in importance. So there's like the quickest sort of primer that I can give you. You can ignore that. This is kind of to do with my theme that I explored during high school, but during that Art IB program. But so that's the quickest primer I can give you. So again, we've got color, line, texture, shape, value, unity, balance. Those were some of the ones that I thought were most important or most foundational at the time, and I guess that's why I put it in my art journal in the first place. And we'll talk about a couple of my art pieces and talk about those elements of design.
Watch part 2 for examples.